Hey, what's going on? You're not going to believe what I brought to this channel today. Make a wild guess. Who am I kidding? You've already seen the title of this video. Yep, that's right. I had a chat with Edidiong The Drip. Huh? That's that's not her last name. Oh, I had a chat with Edidiong Asikpo. We talked about a whole lot of things, contributing to open source, getting started with cloud development, getting started with web and software development, especially if you're Nigerian. You gotta watch this. We talked about common challenges and how to solve them. This was a really fun conversation. It was interesting. I had fun, she had fun, and I'm sure you're gonna have fun, I promise. So watch till the end and tell me what you think in the comment section below. Remember, if you like this video, please hit the like button, please, and then the subscribe button. All right, let's dive right in. Hey, Edidiong. Finally, it's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yep. So it's Edidiong The Drip, like, right? Edidiong The Drip.
Yeah, so the funny thing about that was that there is this really popular speaker. What
Yeah.
is it? TD Jakes, like a pastor, right? He's a pastor rather.
Yeah.
So there was a time, sometime like a couple of years back, he posted his picture, and they named it Bishop the Drip Jakes, right? And then I was like, that's so nice. So there was this picture I took sometime, right? And then when I posted the picture, I posted Edidiong The Drip in quotes as
Yeah.
well. And then the picture was like a nice picture, right? So the picture kind of blew up. And then
Yeah.
ever since then, people just started calling me the drip. Yeah. So
Sounds perfect. And you show it in actions too. So we see videos of the
right?
drip,
Yeah.
videos and pictures of the drip. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Totally. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how you doing, Edidiong? And how's yeah, you just started a new role like 4 months ago, right? Uh June,
A
July,
couple of
July, right? July,
weeks.
August, September.
Yeah. July. Yeah. July.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. Like July 12th. Yes. So I think you just say 3 months and a couple of days.
Okay.
It hasn't reached the 4 months mark yet, but
Just
it
just
will.
tell me
So.
I'm bad at math. That's fine. I know.
No, no, no. Are we not all bad at math? I feel like the number of people that are good in math in the world is like, if we're like 100 people in the world, then maybe like 15 people are really good at math, and then the rest of us are just trying our best.
Just there. So how's
Yeah.
developer advocacy going? You worked as a software engineer before developer advocacy
Mhm.
as at Hashnode, and then now developer advocacy at Ambassador Labs. What was your software
Yeah.
engineering career path like? What was the experience like as a software engineer, first of all?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was interesting. I feel like it was a combination of many things.
Okay.
Interesting, challenging. I mean, having moments where you're completely clueless and those moments where you're clueless, right? But then you try to still solve something. It may take maybe a couple of hours or a couple of days, but then
Okay.
eventually being able to solve that thing and seeing how excited you are that you're able to figure it out. And also just like learning from other people because I feel like humans never know every single thing, and
Yeah.
it's always very important to be open to like asking questions, being okay with understanding that you cannot know everything, and it's absolutely fine for you to not know some things,
Yeah.
and asking people to help you out. So I feel like I had like a really great support system while I was working as a core software engineer.
Okay.
So that kind of helped me navigate through those tough moments and those like annoying times where you're just like, what is actually going on here? But yeah, overall it was fantastic, really.
Great, great. Yeah, I know that period. That was the first time came across. I saw your name. That was I think I saw the Facebook interview you did then.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I was like, who's this amazing person? So
Hey, I know the Facebook interview was it was at some point in my life was like one of the most amazing things that ever happened to me. It still is, but then I feel like other things have happened since then. But I'm really grateful to have had that opportunity to be featured by Facebook.
that was amazing. That was amazing. And then from software engineering to developer advocacy, what was that transition like? Has it always been, was it always the plan? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it was always the plan, but I would, however, say that my career has been strongly impacted by the community. I
Okay.
decided to become active in tech because I did my internship at a place which was very community driven. That's Start
Okay.
Innovation Hub in New York.
Oh,
I
cool.
saw so many young people that were like my age, right? I mean, I was
Yeah.
relatively very young at that time. I still am,
Yeah.
but just seeing young people doing like amazing things, building applications, building websites, and I'm like, okay, this is not actually a very bad thing after all, because in I studied computer science, and
Yeah.
in my university it wasn't, I mean, not to bash the lecturers or anything, but they were mostly always sharing like the theoretical side of things, right? Or trying to explain things in their capacity, but it just didn't, what's that thing called? Is it hit the nail on the head, or there's a quote like that. It didn't hit the nail on the head, right? Is that it? That's a quote.
Yeah, that's it. Hit the nail.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm
Hit the
confused.
nail on the head, or head on the nail. You should definitely check that out to find the correct
Yep.
one.
Yep.
I'll Google that before the session ends. But yeah, so it really didn't do that for me. And when I went for my internship, like in my third year at university, that's when I
Yeah.
got to experience Start Innovation Hub and got to learn how to build Android applications. And I was
Okay.
just like fascinated at the fact that I could build that thing. It wasn't a big deal. It was just like building an app, putting the app on my phone,
Yeah.
clicking it and seeing it work. I was like, what? I can actually do that. And then it just made me understand that if I could learn that amount, like no matter how small it was at that time, and be able to do that, that at some point I could actually do so much more. And because I was inspired by these young people, I mean, there were also people that were a lot older, right? But I would
Okay.
just was inspired by the young people most especially
Yeah.
to be able to like put themselves out there, share knowledge in the community, learn from their articles, learn from their videos, and all of those things. So for me, it was always like a point to give back, right? So if
Okay.
I write an article and help somebody, the way somebody's article helped me when I was starting out my career, then
Yeah.
I'm absolutely happy, right? If I can like maybe give a talk or create a video content that helps somebody one way or the other, it makes me really, really excited. So developer advocacy was basically giving me the opportunity to do those things and still get paid for it, right? So being able to give back, build relationships, still write code. I mean, not as much as I would have if I was a core software engineer, but then I
Okay.
still know how to write code. I still know how to write code because it is like a skill you should have to be a developer advocate. So yeah, I think it's just that inspiration from other people that were doing things in the community, the zeal to give back, and just like combining both of those things. That's what really led to me transitioning into becoming a developer advocate.
Great. Great. And you did your first role as a developer advocate well. Developer advocate at Hashnode. I still remember your tweet when you joined Hashnode.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
You did it. You did it really well.
It was great.
It was, yeah.
Thank you, thank you. And you also recently transitioned to developer advocacy too as well.
I
When
did,
I
yeah.
saw it, I was like, oh wow, this is absolutely fantastic. And before that, I used to like keep up with your YouTube videos, right? So when I saw
Great.
that you transitioned, I was like, okay, this is like a really good fit, and they're like really lucky to have you.
Yeah. Like, why not get
Right?
paid for what I'm already doing?
Right? Exactly.
Okay. And now you work at Ambassador Labs, Ambassador Louds. When I hear
Hmm.
Ambassador Labs, I think about cloud. What do you do?
Right.
What do you do at Ambassador Labs here?
Yes, I mean it's pretty much still applying the role of developer advocacy, but then to a new company. I mean, at my previous role at Hashtag, it was mostly focused about like content creation, written content creation, that's like technical articles,
Okay.
documentation, those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then with Ambassador Labs is now cloud related, and cloud for me was something I'd always wanted to dive into when I was working at InterSwitch, right? I
Okay.
mean, there were like some people in the DevOps team that were always like, we had to interact with them as often as possible because when we needed to deploy something or something was down, so you needed to like quickly send a message to someone in the DevOps team to say, hey, Abdul, this thing is down. Please help us spin it back up and all of those things. So yeah, I mean, I was always just like fascinated to hear them talk about Kubernetes, F5, Kafka, like all these really great things. I'm like, okay, what are people actually talking about, right? So it was something I always wanted to like dive into at some point in my career, and
Okay.
being a developer advocate at ambassador gives me the opportunity. Of course, it's been like a lot of learning process, like a lot of learning for me because I wasn't very knowledgeable about cloud native or cloud in
Okay.
general before I joined Ambassador Labs. So what the company did was basically set up a sort of boot camp for me where I was
Oh,
just like
great.
focused on learning about like Kubernetes, cloud native, and like other technologies. So right
Okay.
now, what I try to do is share that knowledge with the community, like beginners like me, people who are also new to the cloud
Amazing.
native space, and then also yeah, and also advocate for my company's products, right? That's like
Mm.
mostly for developers in who work with Kubernetes and also work with cloud native technologies. I
Yeah.
mean, aside from that, I think the goal is to always to share knowledge, interact with people in the community. But it's now a new community. It's no longer the web development community or the technical writing community that
Yeah.
I was once used to. So it's like just starting my career in tech all over again, to be honest. Yeah,
That's
so
an interesting
that's pretty much
experience.
how
Wait,
it is.
before we move on, you've mentioned Kubernetes like 3 times. I was counting. Maybe I got the math wrong again. What's Kubernetes?
Yeah.
What's that before we move on?
Hmm.
Just
So in a layman's sense, in a way that anybody would understand, right?
yeah.
I will explain because I feel like Kubernetes has a PR for being something that is really hard to learn and understand. And to be honest, I wouldn't say it's the easiest thing, but
Okay.
yeah, this is how I'll explain it. So think of a football team, right?
Okay.
For if anybody listening to this from North America, then they probably know a football team as a soccer team, right? So think of a football or soccer team, right? And usually these teams have 11 players and a coach, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The coach is the one who is like telling the 11 players where to stand at specific times of the game, what to do, who to target, those kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
if one of those players suddenly has, let's say, leg injury or any kind of injury whatsoever, the coach would have to replace that player with another person, right?
Okay.
Or if the player, let's say one of those players are tired, for instance, as well, the coach would have to replace those players with a new player. Yeah. So now think of that coach as Kubernetes, and then think of those different players as containers. So
Mm.
Kubernetes is a container orchestrator that basically helps you manage, deploy, and control your containers. So, for instance, if one container goes down, Kubernetes can help you spin up another container, right? Or if one
Oh.
container isn't following the health check you set up for your containers,
Yeah.
Kubernetes can automatically do that for you. I mean, it's possible for you to do those things yourself, right? But
Yeah.
imagine if you were, let's say, watching a Netflix movie or trying to relax somewhere, and then you're just realizing that all your containers have gone down and nobody can access your application anymore. You have
Mm.
to run back to your computer, try to figure out what's wrong and all of those
Yeah.
things, and that can be very annoying. So instead of doing those things, you can just like declaratively tell Kubernetes what you want to happen. Tell it,
Oh.
oh, hey, I need 10 ports to come up. I need you to split this container into like two containers. I need you to kill this container if it's not working the way I want it to work. So that's like a high level overview of what Kubernetes means. So I do hope.
That's yeah. That was
Yeah.
well explained because I understand Kubernetes now. Maybe I should call myself a Kubernetes expert.
Right? You should definitely do
I'm
that.
adding that to my CV immediately. So
Exactly. Like you shouldn't waste any time at all, literally.
that's great. That was a very good explanation of Kubernetes. Um, so you write articles right now as a developer
Oh,
advocate.
cool.
You write really interesting articles. I like the way just the same way you broke down Kubernetes now is the same way you break down concepts in your articles, and and that's great.
Oh, thank you.
That's really great.
Thank you.
What else you do at Ambassador Labs?
Yeah, so at Ambassador Labs at the moment, like I mentioned, as someone who is really relatively new to the space, there's definitely a lot of learning for me, right? A lot of trying to figure out things as I'm going. So it's not like when you try to write an article, sometimes you literally know every single thing or almost everything before you start writing. And then there are other articles that you write and you literally have no clue. And that writing that article is a process to help you understand what you actually want to start writing about, right?
Okay.
So for me right now, some of the things I do is obviously learning a lot, then sharing the knowledge that I've learned with the community. Then also, like, we recently had an event some days back named Dev House, which was in collaboration with KeepCon. So
Okay.
the event was targeted at people who were interested in learning about cloud native or Kubernetes, just like people wanted to become better in the space. So I
Okay.
facilitated a workshop about get started with Kubernetes,
Oh,
where I
great.
like teach the audience about Kubernetes and a couple of other interesting things.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it involves trying to ensure that our community are using our products effectively. So is it
Okay.
updating the documentation, creating video content about our product and how to use it with other products, right? And
Yeah.
then writing technical articles and also informing the engineering team on what they can do to improve our product based on the feedback received from people in our community.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds great. It looks like you're having fun.
Yeah, totally. I am. It's really been great, and it's really an amazing place to work at.
Yeah, and you also work with other developer communities. I know here in Nigeria you work with Open Source Community Africa, right?
Yes,
What's that?
yes, I do.
What's that part of?
I think it's great. Well, I would say that, I mean, you know how I talked about how the developer community was like a catalyst
Yeah.
strong catalyst of my career, right? I think open source contribution was also one of those things. I remember when
Okay.
I was like in, I think, my 400 level in the university. I think
Okay.
Samson used to talk about open source a lot. Like, you literally hear him say open source this, open source that. I was like, what is this thing, right? Let me just try it out and see how it works. And I did try it out for the Google Summer of Code, right? And I
Okay.
mean, I tried to apply, tried to make a contribution, but even though I didn't get accepted for Google Summer of Code, I did learn how to write an application because I'd never written and like a proposal, rather a proposal on
Okay.
why someone should pick me for like a role or a job
Yeah.
opportunity, right? And then I also was able to make my first open source contribution through that application
Awesome.
piece. And after that, I just like continued contributing, and it was really good. I think what getting a job at InterSwitch and making open source contribution was one of the reasons why I got my role at InterSwitch. It
Okay.
turns out that the day I was having the interview with the CIO,
Yeah.
I mean, usually companies always want to hear that you worked in an actual place, right? Nobody really wants someone who is just really new, even though a lot of them claim that they do. Not a
Wow, I
lot
didn't
of
know
people
anything
actually
about
really
that.
want people that are new, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah. So and then he asked me, hey, what have you been doing recently? What have you done? And I was like, yeah, I just like make open source contributions, right? Like to different organizations. And then it was like, oh, which organization did you contribute to? Rather, when was the last open source contribution you made? And
Okay.
luckily for me, I literally made an open source contribution before I went for that interview on that day. So I was like, oh yeah, I made this contribution about this particular API. I wrote like sample code for the API in Python and also worked on the documentation. Just like talked about like the different things that I did on that particular project. Then it
Okay.
turns out that at that time they were looking for someone to work in their developer experience team, right, to help their documentation, their developer portal become better, right? So that experience that I shared through making open source contribution just said, oh, hey, this girl would most likely be a right fit for the role. And that was how I got like that first gig, sort of.
Great.
So open source contributions have definitely helped me a lot. And joining Oscar to
Yeah.
push or like advocate for open sources, trying to inform people that, oh, hey, this stuff exists. It can help you maybe get job opportunities, can help you
Okay.
connect with people across the world. I mean, I got accepted into the Google Season of Docs program where I got to contribute to the Video Lab open source organization as a
Okay.
technical writer. And to be honest, the VLC media player is something I've been using since I was in like high school, secondary
Yeah.
school. I've been using
We all
that
used it.
thing for like a long. I know, right? So imagine now being able to contribute to that organization that you've literally been obsessed with since you were like a child. Is it's not something that happens a lot. It's not something that you would have just happened if it wasn't through open source contributions, right?
That's
So
true.
it gives you access to things that you would have not originally thought was possible, except maybe you got like an official job there and all of those things. I mean, even after I completed that program, I was like contracted to help me write another documentation
Oh,
outside of Google season of docs, right? So open
okay.
source contribution is great. I mean, you don't necessarily have to contribute. You can be the one building the open source project and putting it out there online. But it is a great thing to do, and I try my best as much as I can to spread the word about it because I know that it impacted me positively.
Great, great,
Yes.
great. Now you make me feel like contributing to open source.
Not to be honest, everybody should. It's really an amazing
Yeah, it's
thing
great.
to do.
Everyone should. I contribute to open source, and it's great. You mentioned technical writing, so a lot of people think that they have to be very technical in the first place to contribute. They have to understand everything about the
Yeah,
project,
yes,
but you
yes,
can contribute through really any way, through the documentation, even the README file,
absolutely.
everything.
Exactly. Like it could be as small as just helping or updating the README file, and you don't know how far that can go. Like maybe there are hundreds of thousands of users who were always having a blocker because they didn't understand what was written in the README file. So you
Yeah,
updating that goes a long way. You might feel like, oh yeah, just README file, but it is actually very impactful and can even push you to do like greater things. I think just getting that first pull request met is like one of the best feelings ever, literally. So
that's
it's a
true.
cool thing, a cool thing to do.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, and the work with open source community Africa and all these developer communities are really great. From your experience, what's the biggest challenge, especially for devs in Nigeria? You know, those starting out
Yeah.
learning to code. What's the biggest challenge for these devs? How have you like what they go through and how to overcome them? So what have you seen?
Well, I think there are a lot of things to be honest. I feel as people who stay in Africa, more specifically Nigeria,
Yeah.
the problems we have may not be problems that other people in other countries face, right? Because let's say for instance I'm having internet connection because I
Yeah.
stay in Nigeria. As someone who is in the US, for instance, you probably don't even relate to like what I just said because you've probably never experienced that kind of problem before, right? So
Yeah.
I would say one of those really big issues for learning how to code in Nigeria has to be internet connection. On the first one, not a lot of people can even afford buy buy data to even like
That's true.
download courses or even read those courses, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and if you can afford to buy it, it's still not
Still not
stable
good.
enough, right? It can literally go off at yeah, it can literally go off at any point in time. So it's like a tricky mix. You don't really know what would work on what or like yeah. So that for me that would be the first thing. And
Yeah.
then the second one would be not being patient enough. I feel like as and to be honest, this is not just specific to Nigeria, but it's one of those things as well, right? So you start learning something new, and you just feel like, oh hey, should I already know every single thing in like 1 week or 1 month because you've seen the hype around it, and
Yeah.
and you want to benefit from that thing so fast. So you're not patient enough to actually understand that thing. And because you now feel bad that you don't understand it, you decide to give up. Right? I don't know if that makes sense. So it's putting too much pressure on yourself to
Yeah.
figure out every single thing in 1 week when it's not even possible. And because you cannot achieve that, um you now decide to stop doing that thing. Let's say you give up from coding or whatever. So that would be the second one for me. And then
Okay.
the third one for me would be not really having a right path to follow while you're learning. I think learning is interesting to be honest, but when you don't really know what to learn afterwards, it makes it very difficult. So
Okay.
if let's say I wanted to learn about Kubernetes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll quickly go to the let's say internet and I said, "Hey, what is Kubernetes?" and see Kubernetes. Yeah. But then how do I know what to do
To
after that?
next.
Am I supposed to learn about AWS? Am I supposed to go deeper to Kubernetes? If yes, where should I start from? I feel like that is the problem because people don't know which paths to follow. Like,
Yeah.
after this, what should I do? After that, what should I do? And because that is not very clear, people give up at some point. They're like, okay, I've been trying to do this thing for a couple of months or a couple of weeks, but I still can't actually build a functional website. And that's probably because they started with JavaScript. They didn't know, maybe they started with HTML, or maybe they
Oh,
started with HTML and then moved to Java without doing
yeah.
CSS, right? There is no, I mean,
Clear
that
path.
part is there, but for a lot of people, they don't really know what to do afterwards. So
Mm.
I think for me, those would be like the three major problems people have when learning how to code, and things that are also specific to Nigeria as well.
Yeah.
So I remember you asked what are the problems and how can I solve those problems.
Yeah.
So for solving, I'll start from 3 to 1. So the third one was that there is no clear path to follow. So a solution to that would be to follow or use platforms that already have that clear path. I
Mm.
mean, using maybe just like Googling is fantastic, to be honest. And I think Googling is one of the great skills to have as someone who is in tech. But let's say you want to learn about web development, maybe try using FreeCodeCamp, because
Yep.
FreeCodeCamp has a detailed step-by-step guide. It's not just telling
Yeah.
you, oh, what is web development? Boom, that's all, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
say YouTube video will tell you. It's telling you what is web development, how to get started, the different projects you can build, and like
Yeah.
next steps, right? So you already have a clear part of like what you're going to do and your process you need to take. And if you don't have access to something like a free code camp, then maybe reach out to somebody in the community.
Oh,
I
yeah.
definitely do think our community is absolutely fantastic and is always willing to help out people. So I bet that if you try to reach out to, let's say, 5 people, at least one person will definitely respond and tell you
Yeah.
what to do, the steps to follow, how to move from here to
That's true.
here.
Don't
And when
just
you
reach out
eventually,
to don't just reach out to one person and give up and say no one is
yeah,
listening to me. At least five or more.
exactly. Yeah, I agree. And I think people do that a lot. They just reach out to this one person, and then if they don't respond, you'll be like, ah, if Vanessa did not respond, now I'm done. I'm not doing it again. And that's not actually cool. So what's that thing they say about not putting your egg in one basket? Throw your eggs and put your
Yep.
eggs in different baskets. That's different people. And I bet you that at least one person will definitely respond. If nobody
Yep.
responds in the first 5, send it to another 5. One
Yep.
person must respond at some point. Yeah. Or maybe just like tweet it out publicly, or on Twitter
Yeah.
or on LinkedIn, whatever platform you use effectively, and someone would most likely respond. And then the second one is what can you write what I said the second challenge was? I know I talked about yes, not being patient, right? So a way to solve that would be to set realistic goals for yourself. I know there are a lot of like YouTube videos and articles and content that mislead people to think that they can learn JavaScript in 1 week, or they can do this in 2 weeks. Yes, it's there, and there are like a lot of people posting those kind of motivational quotes on Twitter and everything. But then it's very, very important to be realistic. Absolutely important. Think
Yep.
of it this way: if you wanted to learn how to speak a new language like French or Spanish, it's impossible for you to know how to speak those languages in 1 week. Yes, you could
That's
probably
true.
know hello and hi and goodbye, but you can't know every single thing about that language. So
Yeah.
think of it that way. Programming language is also a language, but I mean in programming. So it's impossible for you to know every single thing about that thing in 1 week or 1 month or 3 months. So
Yeah.
give yourself time. Try to appreciate what you've learned so far. You've been able to learn how to say hello world in HTML. There are millions of people that don't know how to say hello world, how to write hello world in HTML. So congratulate
That's
yourself
true.
for doing that, and
Yeah.
then know that, hey, yeah, this is where you are. And if you can do this with, let's say, a couple of hours that you studied, a couple of days, then you can do better at some point. And then for the final one, which is internet connection, it's really hard, to be honest. So what I would say is, if you have people who have access to internet connection, please tell them to like help you download those videos, and then they could just like share it with you through drives. That was
Yeah.
definitely what I did when I started learning how to code. I mean, I definitely didn't have a lot of access that I have right now. Yes, I had a computer, but I mean, how much did I even have to buy internet or spend my internet on downloading courses? So, but then they were like really cool people who downloaded these courses and just shared it with you like through a drive, or just uploaded it on Google Drive.
Yeah.
So if you have that link, you can literally just access those courses. So yeah, those would be my three top challenges for learning how to code in Nigeria, and how to solve or maybe make you
That's
better
true.
when
And
facing those challenges.
everyone can relate with the, especially if you're from Nigeria, you can relate with the internet connectivity issues. It happens to all of us,
I
all of us.
know.
It's something that money can hardly fix. Yeah, because
That is the saddest part. That is just the saddest part. It's it's really annoying. It's
what
really
I
annoying,
did back
to
then
be
too,
honest.
when I started, in terms of affordability, I'd use the night plan, so like
Yeah.
MTN night plan or Airtel night plan,
Oh,
because it's
that's a
usually
great
faster at
point.
night when a lot less people are using it. So that early morning, 1 a.m.
Yeah.
to 4, 5 a.m. And then I download YouTube videos then, and so that I can watch the next day. So yeah, if you have that issue, think about that.
Cool,
Night plans are
cool.
usually a lot cheaper than the normal subscriptions. And
Yeah.
for the patients part, I've seen it too.
That's actually a very fantastic point.
That's true. The patients part, so I've seen it with a lot of people. You start and in 1 week, maybe you see these videos and they say master JavaScript in 10 days, or no,
In
beginner to
1 week.
expert, beginner to
Yeah.
expert in 7 days. And after 7 days, you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I'm still struggling with HTML. So when will I start building what? And people compare
Yeah.
themselves with those who have been doing this for 5 years, 10 years plus, and
I know. I mean, I am guilty of doing that. To be honest, I see lots of people doing interesting things on Twitter, and I'm like, I feel so bad that I can't do them. And then sometimes you now realize that these people have been in the space for like
yep,
10 years, 15 years, and you're
yeah,
like, why on earth are you comparing yourself? Like, I literally used to tell myself, hey, did you just like take a break? If you
yeah,
are doing this thing for 11 years, so you definitely
of course.
even maybe do better than those people when you reach that point. So
Yeah,
it can be tough to. I feel like because the world is now at a place where people can easily share information, it can be very hard to not look down on yourself, because you're seeing so many people doing so many great things, so many people learning JavaScript in, let's say, 1 week, according to them, which is not even
and getting
possible.
a job.
And you just feel like, I'm getting a job. I know, right? That's like the most annoying part. They're literally showing me to get a job. They are saying, people say, yeah, I just got this new job. Super excited to announce that I'm now working at this place. And you just feel really down. But you never really know what those people went through. You don't know if they've been searching for those jobs for like a long time, or like preparing for it for like months, right?
Yeah,
So it's important to like take a step back and just like appreciate your process, know that your journey is different from other people's journey, and
yeah,
try to focus on that. Of course, be inspired by other people. It's awesome to be inspired, but it's not great to compare yourself. Take it from me, I've done it and I realized it wasn't great. Yeah.
that's true. Amazing. Well, this has been really great. One last thing, if you can afford courses, buy them. I know a lot of people struggle with the idea of purchasing courses, but then these are the same people who paid school fees for 4, 5, 6 years, and it comes to
I
buying courses
know.
online, and that's it. That's a struggle. So yeah, if you can afford courses, buy them. Thank you very much. Last question before we leave. As a developer, or as
Okay.
someone who's maybe not a developer yet, let's say I want to get started with cloud development. What do I do? What resources would
Yeah.
you recommend? What steps should I take?
Well, I would say that you should. There are lots of resources, right? And cloud native development, or like even cloud development, is
Yeah.
very broad. So you could probably maybe just want to focus on like containerization, or
Okay.
focus on like monitoring, which will include like Prometheus and all of those things. So I always advise that whatever field you want to get into,
Yeah.
try to understand the different sectors of this field, identify which of them you want to get into, and then find the resources for them. So let's say you want to become a web developer, right?
Yeah.
In web development, there is front end, there is back end, there is even full stack, right? So instead of just saying, hey, web developer, which of them do you want to be?
Focus on.
In front end, do you want, yes, in front end is like React or Vue.js, right? Which of them do you want to do? Instead of just delving right into, hey, I want to be a web developer, try to understand, yes, the broad picture is absolutely fantastic, but then try to know which of those things you want to do, right? So in
Okay.
cloud native, is it Kubernetes, is it Docker, is it Prometheus, is it all of them? It's possible to learn all of them, to be honest, but identifying which of them you'd love to start with and finding the resources of those things will be very, very beneficial.
Okay.
And good thing is these different platforms and tools and technologies have really great documentation. Like Kubernetes one can be found on kubernetes.io. There's like a lot of interesting talks and articles and resources on this thing. And with just a quick Google search, you should be able to get um, tons of amazing resources. My
Okay.
team even worked on a portal like platform to help people understand or get started with
Oh, great.
cloud native. So I'm going to share that URL with you, and then you can add it to the
Yeah.
link of the
Yeah, I'm gonna add that.
video, so people can check it out. So just give me a
Great.
second to find it. Yes, so
Okay.
that would be very beneficial because it will give you um like an overview of cloud native and different steps you need to take to understand it.
Okay.
Of course, we're not guaranteeing you to know every single thing in 1 week, but it will definitely give you the head start you need.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you very much. This has been fun. This has been fun. Yep. And thanks for the link too.
Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna have you back.
Yes, sure.
Back
Thanks
on
for
this
having me.
channel.
I really had a great time.
I did too. I'm sure everyone who's watching, I would want to have you back to hear more from you about your work, about tech career, and about um, becoming the drip, becoming the drip. Because I also want to,
Right.
I just want to drip like you
Yeah,
soon.
I'd really, really, really love to. I should definitely do a masterclass on how to drip. I'll put that into consideration and set
Please,
something up.
I'll be the first person on the first row.
Right, right, right.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll see you again, hopefully soon. Bye. Okay, that's not.
Sure. Thank you. Bye bye.
Wait, that's not bye from the video. So we're done.
Yes, yes. I know. I just wanted to. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot. I don't know why
Okay.
we are still having all these internet connectivity issues, but that'll get solved soon, hopefully.
It's yeah. I really hope so. To be honest, like I literally.